marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
Majesty is a premium health and wellness.
You are watching us live right now. This is the BCSN Sports Wrap special edition of our HBCU Fantasy Men's Basketball Tournament. We want to appreciate Director Courtney Gaucher of Florida A&M University. Thank him for joining us. You saw that interview with him. And appreciate everyone at Florida A&M and everything they're doing. And of course, joining me, you see AD Drew and Dr. Kenyatta Cavill. AD, Dr. Cavill, how we doing today?
Doing well this morning. How's it going?
All right, doing well. We're excited to reveal the teams that advanced from out of round one of our fantasy tournament. It's been a great 2 days of trying to promote this and put it out there among the fan bases, the schools, the alumni. Just general observations from some interactions or thoughts that you guys had before we get into doing the results. AD, and then Doc, go to you.
First of all, I was very pleased with the number of people who voted and who engaged in this battle on Twitter. You saw a couple of the athletic departments getting involved and promoting this. I'm not going to call any of the particular schools out, but I did notice a couple of athletic departments called each other out and challenged their alumni to vote in this particular matchup. One thing, I will bring this one out. The Miles Athletic Department was disappointed in the selection committee for only giving them a number 3 seed. So they did bring that out on Twitter. So
we gave them home court advantage, man.
But I guess they felt they should be at least a number 2, if not a number 1, based upon their season. That was the biggest. That was the biggest comment that I got from it. I don't know if that was an athletic department or a Miles fan, but that was the one comment that stuck out in my mind out of all of the comments that we received.
I thought they
had a little bit of both.
Yeah, I thought they had the best tweet overall, saying that we're going to win something this spring. So get out and vote. I thought that was the tweet of the first round, no doubt. Doc, your observations. You guys had your show inside the HBCU Sports Lab last night. What was some of the reaction you had from your show?
Oh, it was fun, man. They got on it. Hopefully, we drove some traffic to the website. Is what our goals and desires were from the show. My colleagues. Mike Watch and Charles Bishop, they got into it. We did a quick little twist in terms of our picks coming out of there, and we did the Sweet 16 to follow the lead of what we did here on BCSN with giving shout-outs to the Sports Wrap with Brian and AD in terms of the wonderful job you all did, the think tank in terms of bringing this together and allowing me to be a part of it. We stood out in the forefront, and the biggest thing was conversation was up there in regards to similar on the opposite side of what you heard with Miles, some of the NIA programs coming on there. Some of the Division I fans were saying, hey, particularly in the SWAC, we should have had more teams.
Oh, really? Okay.
Hamilton should have been in it.
Well, who do they think was missing?
Yeah,
Who do they think was left off?
One schools, they not respected it. And I was like, okay, guys, we just saw fantasy. We did the Massey rating. They said, but this is fun. Where's my poll?
I'm curious. Who did they think was missing? Who was the team they thought was left out?
The biggest team they thought was missing was probably Grambling. That was the one that they thought should have got in from the SWAC. And then, so my question was who you pull out. So some of them were like one of the CIAA teams, and I think they're probably not as deep as knowledge of that, but they were mentioning like a Johnson C. Smith. Some thought the seeding, opposite of what Miles and other NEI programs said, that they were probably too high as a 3-level seed. So it was great because that's what we wanted to generate. We wanted to generate the conversation. We wanted to provide a platform for our HBCU programs, including those athletic programs and athletic directors that got it. That tells you, as I like to call it, the HBCU culture aesthetics is alive and well. The HBCU, or what I refer to as the sporting HBCU diaspora, is alive and well.
Yeah, that's good to hear. And I also, I saw you mentioned athletic departments and athletic directors, commissioners. I know we saw Dr. Kiki Baker Barnes from the GCAC. She the post. So I mean, it was pretty cool seeing some of the coaches send it out. So round 1 has come to a close, and we're going to reveal the teams that are advancing into round 2. Round 2 voting starts. Actually, it's already started. So you can go to mybcsn.net/vote, and then you can see the round 2 selections, and you can begin voting for the teams in round 2. The regional semifinals is what we call them, and those votes will go until Friday at noon. So let's start in the Big House Games bracket, gentlemen, and quickly, our closest matchup by far and away was the 3-6 seed, where I guess if we're going by seed, we have an upset. This was one of the, I think, was this the only matchup between conference opponents? Am I correct? Bowie State? Yeah, so these two teams split during the regular season, but it looks like the fan voting says that Bowie State, the 6th seed, advances, and they advance by the slimmest of margins, a 50.44% vote in favor of Bowie State advancing and beating Virginia State. And then the other close matchup, which I guess we'll also call an upset based on seeding, with a 52.10% vote, it would be the Talladega Tornadoes of the GCAC knocking off number 2 seed Norfolk State in the opening round. So, gentlemen, I'll give you an opportunity to react. We got a 6 and a 7 seed advancing to the regional semis. AD?
All right, I guess I'll go first. The Bowie State, Virginia State one did not surprise me. Those two are rivals. Those two schools love to hate each other or hate to love each other, whichever way you want to put it. That did not surprise me that it came down to the end with those two. Talladega Tornado Nation was strong. You hate to see tornadoes in your backyard, but I love to see them on Twitter. So, great job to the Talladega Tornadoes, and much respect to the NAIA and GCAC brethren who got out and did what they needed to do via Twitter and via the bracket challenge.
Doc, your thoughts?
Yeah, same, very similar. Obviously, coming out of here at Norfolk State, coming over Talladega and Virginia State over Bowie State. But the fans put it out there. And I could see a slight upset with Talladega and Norfolk State. So it's not like they're too far off. Obviously, as we talked about, Talladega putting up 80.1 points a game offensively. So they certainly had a puncher's chance. And as it came out, they threw that mighty blow.
Yep. And what came to my mind is I was thinking for Norfolk State, their big time upset, I believe, in the NCAA tournament came against a 2 seed. I believe back when they were a 15 seed when they knocked off. I can't remember the team they beat, but I know Kyle O'Quinn was the player for Norfolk State. I think he was the conference player of the year when they upset. The name escapes me. Maybe one of you guys will remember it later, or some other. But anyway, they're eliminated. So Bowie State, Talladega advance on that side of the bracket, and then we have a SWAC matchup on the other side. Doc, we've got Prairie View advancing, Jackson State advancing as well. Jackson State with a 64.4% of the vote. Prairie View just under 60% of the vote. So a little bit closer matchup than maybe a lot of people thought. Shout out to the Dillard community for stepping up and getting involved. But Prairie View and Jackson State, what do we know about that matchup, Doc? How'd they look during the regular season?
Yes, Prairie View got both games in that matchup. But before I do that, to answer your question was, as you said, it's a 15-2. The seeded was Missouri.
Yes.
In that big-time matchup, as the MEAC has 3 of the 6 or 7 total upsets of 15-2s, as we know, and going back to the original one with Coppin State, Frank Mitchell as the coach. But back to this Prairie View Jackson State matchup. Prairie View has beaten Jackson State twice this season. The second matchup was in Prairie View. It was the one where they got in a little scuffle at the end of the game. Tight matchup that went back and forth. Prairie View just finds a way to have Jackson State number right now and get it done. This was a matchup that would have been a semi-final matchup in the SWAC tournament, as both teams won their opening round games. Prairie View over Alabama A&M. Jackson State sweeping Alcorn State for the 3rd time this season, which means they were both there. Prairie View flew in to Birmingham. Jackson State had just left the campus 15 miles out when they got the message that the tournament would be canceled. So very intriguing that in our fantasy matchup, they go head-to-head. Jackson State has a huge fan base, so if Prairie View wants to move on as they should as the number 1 seed, as I picked it, they're going to need to get out and vote, because Jackson State is a huge fan base that gets into it. So if they decide to jump into this rat race, you can see an upset right here.
That'll be fun. AD, your thoughts here on that matchup before we move on to the next bracket?
I just pretty much want to echo what Doc said, and I guess the good thing for this that this is fantasy. This is not reality. So, hopefully all bitter feelings from the scuffle earlier this year are gone between each other, and everybody can unite and stay corona-free and violent-free during this fantasy matchup.
I love it.
Well said, AD. All right, so let's move on over to the Jerry Johnson region. And so this is this bracket. The winner of this bracket will take on the Big House Games winner in the fantasy Final Four. So this one pretty much went chalk. We didn't really have any close matchups per se, or any close results, I should say. It almost went chalk. All 4 top 4 seeds advance. We had North Carolina A&T with an overwhelming 85% of the vote. This was probably the largest, I believe it might have been one of the 2 largest, voting margins. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, of all. And so props to the Aggies. And then we had the 4-5 matchup. We have Bethune-Cookman over West Virginia State. 60% of the vote went to Bethune-Cookman. And, gentlemen, that sets up a MEAC matchup in our regional semifinals between A&T and Bethune-Cookman. And I'll let you, any quick thoughts on that matchup, AD? You could say no. It's all good.
Cookman I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
It's all right. I threw it to you. You didn't have to catch it. It could have just flew right by. It's all good.
I tell you what, let me yield to Dr. Cavillo before I gather my thoughts up.
I got you back. When we talk about this one, that's going to be an interesting matchup. They split the season in the MEAC play as both teams play each other
Both teams won at home. They were close matchups, so I think this game will be a close one as well. It didn't go my way. I actually had an upset with West Virginia State, as I said, as well as the Harris Stowe upset of Johnson C. Smith. But as you said, this one kind of went chalk, and I think you're going to see it continue to go chalk as North Carolina A&T will proceed. It'll be interesting in terms of that Texas Southern and Johnson C. Smith. Texas Southern is a rabid fan base with a lot of history, but they're not as large of a fan base. So it's going to be interesting to see in terms of the polling, will those fans get out and vote and see the matchup that many people would like, in general speaking, would be North Carolina A&T versus Texas Southern to go to the Final Four. We shall see, though. The voters will get a chance to make their statement.
Right, and you just mentioned the other half of the bracket, which is 3 seed Johnson C. Smith with just under 61% of the vote, and Texas Southern with 67.5% of the vote advancing into their round. Johnson C. Smith, 20-8 on the season. Texas Southern, I believe 16-16 during the regular season, and so that gives us a 1-2. 2-3 and a 1 versus 4. Any thoughts, AD? I'll give you a chance to get the last word in here on the Jerry Johnson semifinals before we move over to the John McClendon region.
On the court, I would love to see these four teams match up. It would be interesting to see a traditional power such as Johnson C. Smith match up against a Texas Southern who has over the last 2 to 3 years been an outstanding team in the SWAC. We all know the type of streaks they've put together. On the other side of the bracket, A&T Bethune. These two schools don't like each other on the court. They're not too fond of each other off the court. I would love to see this matchup once again on the court, but we're going to leave that up to fantasy and see whose alumni base does what it's supposed to do. A&T by far has the largest alumni base in this bracket. A&T, if the people get out and vote, should come out of this particular bracket hands down.
Well said. Well said. All right, so moving on.
A&T is going to be a tough one moving forward. They have a extremely fan base, and they're excited about what they're doing in their athletic program as they seem to be winning in everything and all things, except for when they face FAMU in football. Got to throw that little punch in there.
Wow,
but outside of that, it'll be interesting to see if they continue to push the magic button.
Well said, well said. All right, moving over to the John McClendon region on the other side of the bracket. This one, I think, is this is going to be, I'm just going to set this up because I think this is a great pair of games and a great semifinals. This too also went chalk with 1, 2, 3, 4 seeds advancing. Of course, North Carolina Central, the number 1 overall seed, with a 71% vote over Morehouse in this contest. And then you could call little school versus big school, but it's not an upset based on seeding. You have Xavier of the GCAC NAIA Division I with just under a 65% of the vote over Alcorn State. Of course, Alcorn State, we understand, fictitiously going into this contest without their head coach as they moved on. So I don't know, maybe there could be just some feelings about Alcorn State at this point in the program. And that may be why the fan base kind of stayed away a little bit. I don't know. And then on the other side of the bracket, we've got Miles fans defeated Stillman. Of course, we mentioned great support by the Miles athletic program with a 62% victory in the voting. And then number 2 seed Tennessee State, the Tigers, with a 72% vote over Albany State. So the 1 and the 2 seeds with over 70% victory, and that sets up a North Carolina Central Xavier matchup and a Miles Tennessee State matchup. I personally think those are 2 exciting games that I wish we could have. What are your thoughts on that, Doc?
Well, my thoughts on that, as you said, those matchups are really intriguing. This is the one I picked chalk, so I'm just happy that I'm in line with the voters. I finally got one right. With that, so I think that's a big-time matchup with North Carolina and Xavier. Boy, that would be an exciting matchup to actually watch, as well as Miles and Tennessee State. It'll be interesting to see what the fans get out and do. Man, this one fans are pretty active on it, so the fans are going to drive what comes out of this region.
Yeah, AD, and this is the one where, if I'm not mistaken, this region is in Birmingham, Alabama, so it's right in, of course, North Carolina Central, the one seed, having to do the most travel, and fictitiously having to do the most travel in this contest. What are your thoughts?
Miles in their own backyard defeated rival Stillman. They've got regional rival Tennessee State. I expect these Miles fans to get out and vote, especially the way Miles pushed round one on their Twitter feeds.
Exactly.
I really expect them to get out of votes. This matchup was one of the ones that had one of the largest vote totals just independently, just people voting in this particular matchups that with their push for Miles and Stillman's athletic department. I expect Miles to continue to push that. So predicting Miles to move on. On the other side, I think even though they're rivals, they're across town, I think those Dillard fans who voted for in their Prairie View A&M Dillard matchup are gonna go across town and vote for Xavier. So I think New Orleans is going to unite. They're going to get a couple people from Suno to come on in, since Suno doesn't have an athletic department anymore. Xavier, I think, is going to blow North Carolina Central out just based on New Orleans united, because everybody's inside quarantine. They're going to unite together and vote Xavier on to the next round.
What about the conference? What about the idea of conference affiliations? I mean, you hear about that kind of thing, and will the conference support come in here? Will the MEAC supporters come in for North Carolina Central? You're calling for a New Orleans or maybe even a GCAC rallying there for Xavier, and then of course you got Miles in the SIAC, Tennessee State. In the Ohio Valley, they out
there by themselves.
They're kind of out there by themselves, but they do have a good fan base that could come in and shock the system. So it remains to be seen how conferences affiliation and support will factor into this fantasy contest as well. All right, guys, let's move it to the last bracket, the Ben Job region, and that's where we have another close matchup. And we probably we will call this an upset. We are calling this one as the number 6 seed Tougaloo Bulldogs with an upset over CIAA champion Winston-Salem State. Tougaloo with a 50.42% win over Winston and Winston-Salem, and that's a shocker to me. Your immediate thoughts, AD, at that one?
Thank Stephen A. Smith did not see your tweet. Because if he would have got involved, Winston-Salem would have blew Tougaloo out. So, Winston-Salem's probably one of their most notable alums, Stephen A. Smith, especially with the platform that he has on the Big Boy Network. He could have did some damage to you there, Brian, and to those to the Tougaloo Bulldogs, but he stayed out of it. So, even if he did get in it, he got in anonymously, so we don't know, but he did push it. So,
full transparency here, I actually picked Winston-Salem, so I mean, just being transparent here.
My biggest disappointment was my fellow Golden Tigers did not get out and support Tuskegee as we battled to see which of Booker T schools were the best Booker T schools. Looking at the number, Hampton killed us on Twitter. The bracket, everything else was close. Hampton killed us on Twitter. So I need my Tuskegee alum to get out and engage in Twitter a little bit more for any other bracket contest that there may be. Southern, Morgan State, pretty much chalk, pretty much went as you expected. I expected that great Southern alumni base to go ahead and move Southern on to the next round.
So just to let people know, Hampton with a 67% over Central. Set there, Tougaloo over Winston-Salem, and then the rest of that bracket as we have a 1, 2, 5, and 6 seed.
I love it. It looks like it's going to be a tough one, as AD pointed out. Not only did Hampton really get it done on Twitter, they had the most activity on Twitter in terms of the votes overall. So great point to be made in terms of the Pirates, and kudos to those fans for getting involved in terms of Twitter. It's going to be interesting to see will they continue at that level, and if not, they will be strong contender to come all the way through this in terms of that activity. It's going to be also intriguing just to see overall, to see how this activity picks up after people see that their votes are real in regards to how far their team will push through this. So now that you have some of the athletic departments getting involved, the fans getting involved, it's going to be interesting as that continues to move forward. But outside of that, I thought that region went as I expected, and I continue to see whether Southern fans, which everybody knows has a huge fan base, if they decide to get active, get involved, we can basically shut this down.
All right. Well, that's gonna, as we get ready to wrap up here, just to remind everybody, you have 2 days of voting. You have voting today. You have voting tomorrow. You can vote each day, and you'll see us post different announcements. We'll put some more Twitter polls up. We'll post the announcements on Twitter, but you can already begin voting. Just go to mybcsn.net/vote. And then that's where you can make your vote known, or I should say make your choice known for the regional semifinals. Again, just to run those down for you, in the Big House Games region, you have Prairie View taking on Jackson State, Bowie State taking on Talladega College. In the Jerry Johnson region, we have North Carolina A&T taking on Bethune-Cookman, Johnson C. Smith taking on Texas Southern. Over on the John McClendon bracket, we have North Carolina Central against Xavier University, Miles College taking on Tennessee State, and then in the Ben Jobe region, we have Southern University taking on Morgan State, and Tougaloo College taking on Hampton University. So those are what we'll say, those are the Sweet 16, the regional semis, and the voting again is now live. AD, any final thoughts? Anything you want to add before we get ready to close and break out?
Give you the breakdown. There's 5 BAC teams, 4 SWAC teams, 3 GCAC teams, 2 independent teams, 1 CIAA, 1 SIAC. That's your 16.
Wow, so we went from what, I think we had 6 CIAAs and 6 SICs. Is that what we had, or was it 5 SICs?
I think it was 5 and 5 and 6. No, there were 6. There were 6.
Okay, so there were 6 CIAAs down to 1, and then
same thing with the SIAC.
And the crazy part is we were guaranteed to have 1 CIAA advance, and so
that's the only one who advanced.
Okay,
but the big boys advanced.
The big boys advanced, so a little Division I bias there, maybe. I don't know. Just saying, just.
What's shocking is 3 of the 4 GCAC teams advanced, and which meant 3 of our 5 NAIA teams advanced. So that's probably the biggest shocker of them all versus everything else. Will those small schools unite to beat those big boys, or will the big boys continue to do what they do because they are the big boys? That's the question going into this next round.
2 6 seeds advanced, 2 5 seeds advanced. Anything come out of it, Doc, that you see before we close up?
I think AED makes excellent points in regards. That's going to be what everybody wants to watch. Will the fan bases of these quote-unquote big schools, what we call on our segments the major division schools, will they get out there, vote, and make their power in terms of the numbers carry the day, or as we refer to in the mid-majors, as AD stated, will you get a coalescing of powers from the quote-unquote smaller institutions, mainly out of the GCAC at the NAIA level? Will they come together and overthrow these quote-unquote bigger branded HBCU schools? I think that's the thing to watch this.
All right. So again, we appreciate Dr. Cavill for jumping in and joining us, and AD for jumping in. Again, thank you for watching. Again, appreciate Courtney Gaucher, the athletic director of FAMU, for joining us in the previous interview segment that you saw. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Make sure to check out on the mybcsn.net/sportswrap. AD also had an interview with Fort Valley State's athletic director, so that interview is up on our website as well, and you can hear from Fort Valley State and find out how they're dealing with everything going on with the COVID-19 and just from their perspective. We'll also be talking with the CIAA commissioner a little later in the week, so we'll be posting that conversation as well, as we continue to try to just continue to bring different voices within the Black college athletics atmosphere, and kind of see how everyone is doing and how everyone is dealing with these unusual times that we're in. So thanks for voting in the round 1 of the HBCU Fantasy Men's Basketball Tournament. Round 2 voting is now. Go to mybcsn.net/vote. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We're even on Periscope. So those of you watching on Periscope, we appreciate you. That's at mybcsn1. That's the number 1. And that's where you can find us. Dr. Cavill, giving people a shout out your Twitter feed real quick.
Yes, you can catch me at Dr. Kenyatta Cavill. That's at DrKenyattaCavil, or at Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. You can get information in regards to this poll going on, as well as just general HBCU sporting of the news. We did our show yesterday on Facebook Live, so check out Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Check out the show and let us know what your thoughts, as we also went through the tournament as well. So give us some back and forth in terms of what you think our points were. More importantly, instead of getting out the vote, stay inside and vote.
Yes, sir. Well said. And there is a podcast you can check out on Spreaker as well. So if you're on Spreaker, if you make sure to check that out as well. AD, give people a shout out. Let them know where they can find you.
Find me at BCSN Drew. That's BCSN DREW on Twitter, and that's the best way to engage with me. And of course, you can catch us on our YouTube channel, Sports Rap YouTube channel, along with on the BCSN platform.
All right, that's going to do it. You can always find me at DRB365. Shout out to our producer, Roy Evans, as well, putting all this together and putting it out on the web for you guys to interact with us. Let us know what you think, how you feel, and most importantly, stay safe, stay inside, stay inside, stay inside. I know it's hard. Stay inside. Check on your friends and family as much as you can. Wash your hands if you have to go outside. Be safe, everybody, and we'll see you this weekend when we'll do some more reaction shows from the fantasy tournament. All right. Thanks for watching. God bless. Be safe. Take care.